Alright, what is going on, guys? My name is Leon Master. Welcome back to another Overwatch League video, and today, guys, I'm bringing you guys another trading video of what could potentially happen later this offseason, players that could get traded in the offseason. The signing deadline is almost here, which is July 31st. I don't see many players getting signed or traded anytime soon because it's almost here. So I wanted to talk about the offseason since that's the next thing we really got for players really going anywhere. It's just a fun video I wanted to do. It's kind of like the top 10 players that could get traded video. And some of those players will not be in the same video. So if you want to see that video, there's a card on the top right corner, and also it's in the description below if you want to. There is some players in that video that still need to get traded, and also I'm going to be listing some players here that should get traded in the offseason or may have a chance. Keep that in mind. These players may get traded in the offseason. To start it off, though, for the first person we're going to talk about, by the way, is Who Are You on the New York Excelsior. Now, I think Who Are You is honestly, he's had a shaky season. You know, he's had a shaky season on the NYXL. At the start of the season, it was kind of shaky on his May, but his Genji's been very powerful in almost every other projectile he's been playing on. He's still an Overwatch League player, and the three teams I wrote down on here, I like one of them, is LA Valiant, LA Gladiators, and also the London Spitfire. I think on LA Valiant, I think he could just be better than KSF in general when it comes to projectile heroes. I think there could be some heroes KSF is better on, or if there's like a little flexibility issue they could have, Who Are You could play something. And also rotation could be good on LA Valiant. In Gladiators, I feel like Gladiators are going to release Jaru and Mirror and keep Kevster. I wouldn't mind seeing Who Are You come in, see who would battle for that starting spot, Who Are You or Kevster. I feel like Who Are You could end up being better than Kevster, but Kevster's also been dominating so far on the Glads, but it's hard to say because they're not that good. But I think Who Are You could also be a good impact on the LA Gladiators. Now, London Spitfire, I really like this one I wrote. Now, I don't know how London Spitfire is still doing their things behind the scenes. Obviously, they have some big name players like Lister and also Bernard from the offseason, and everyone else has been kind of a no-name. And I try my best to think about how they would sign players. I feel like they would sign Who Are You. I feel like Who Are You could be cheap. I don't know, but who knows, honestly. And the reason I put him down on London Spitfire does a weird thing to the projectile players right now. Shui's in sometimes, then there's Aldo, and then but you have Babel and Glycera, who are all always good. But Who Are You? I feel like Who Are You could come in and stay as that main flex DPS, no rotations, no nothing. Any meta could be good for Who Are You, I feel like. So I feel like this would be a good move for the London Spitfire if they got Who Are You next season. I think this move would be really good, but I can see Who Are You going to many other teams next season as well. Now to the next one, it is actually OG on the LA Gladiators. Now I think Gladiators are probably kind of disappointed how OG ended up turning out. I think a lot of people, including myself, thought this was going to be a good season for OG. He was going to pop off, especially the coaching staff there is on Gladiators. But at the end of the day, nothing really changed. He's still kind of inconsistent, and we've learned OG in the past. He loves to be on bottom tier teams and likes to help them come back up. And I've listed some bottom tier teams, except for one. But then again, I like the one I listed here, kind of like Who Are You. The three teams I listed is Toronto Defiant, Washington Justice, and London Spitfire. I'll talk about the one I like the most, London Spitfire. I think JMac's pretty good, but I feel like OG could be better than JMac at the end of the day. Even if OG plays some inconsistent plays here, if they keep JMac, they can put JMac in. I think there's a good rotation here. But I think OG could go on to London Spitfire and be motivated to play on a team like that where there were no names, ended up doing good, that could need help in the main tank position. OG comes in, then you have an OG Bernard duo, and there's no language barrier. And who knows, that could be a thing of OG, a language barrier, but I don't know. OG speaks great English. So who knows where this could go? I do like my London Spitfire one. Then on the Washington Justice, I think Roar's going to be gone 100%. Roar doesn't even play Overwatch outside of scrims, so I think Justice is looking to get rid of Roar anytime soon and then sign a new main tank. And I think OG could go there. As we've learned, OG likes to go on bottom tier teams and try and help them. We saw that in Dallas Fuel Season 1 and a little bit of 2. I think he can bring that to Justice, and the same thing goes for Toronto Defiant. I think OG, even him being inconsistent, is probably better than Numlocked and Beast, in my opinion. I feel like OG could honestly help Toronto Defiant by a lot, because main tank has been a pretty part on the Toronto Defiant for many times now, and I feel like OG can make it a little bit better, and then we'll see where that goes for the Toronto Defiant, honestly. Then I have a little small one here real quick. Just wanted to get this one out of the way. It is Super on the San Francisco Shock, and I think there's only really one team I think he could really go to, even though I think he's going to stay on the Shock. It's just a little fun one to throw out here. It is the Houston Outlaws. Now, like I said, this one's for fun, but I do want to explain some things here for this one. Super the Houston Outlaws, we know he doesn't get that much playtime on the SF Shock because Smurf's insanely good, but I think if Super was still in and they didn't have Smurf, I think they would still be fine. But if Super goes with the Houston Outlaws is finally fixing their main tank issue they've had for 2 seasons now, and hydration's starting to look a little weak now. People are starting to find their weaknesses, and I feel like if Super comes in, and keep in mind, Super used to work with Dante and also Harsha behind the scenes, and he's also good friends of many people on the Houston Outlaws roster. So I feel like if Super went to Houston, it honestly wouldn't be that big of a deal. Yes, he's losing that championship, spot on the SF Shock, but I feel like he can make Houston Outlaws really good if his main tank play. Beside Dante, who they've always been teammates back in SF Shock Season 1, and they still play with each other a decent amount and just talk to each other behind the scenes. So I feel like Super could be great for the Houston Outlaws, but I don't see it happening, but who knows. Then onto this next one, I hope this player gets traded to a different team. It is Myeonbong on the Boston Uprising. Now, we all know Myeonbong is really good. He's just being held back from Boston Uprising. We know he's going to go to a different team. Now, I wrote down 5 teams where Myeonbong could potentially go, and it is the Dallas Fuel, the Atlanta Reign, London Spitfire, Gladiators, and Washington Justice. Now, I want to talk about my London Spitfire one here. I really enjoy all my London Spitfire ones I listed here. Now, Myeonbong, I feel like he would be a great fit for the London Spitfire. I do know Hyli's pretty good on BAP and other heroes as well, the Zen a little bit. And they have Krillin, who still plays occasionally for London Spitfire. But I feel like London Spitfire needs to find their main starting 6, and I feel like Myeonbong could be that mainstay in the flex support role for next season possibly. And I feel like Myeonbong would even take that contract to go into London Spitfire and show that he's even better than what he is on the Boston Uprising, and potentially become an A or S tier support. He's currently B for me, but that's Boston Uprising really holding them back. We can't really see that full potential from Myeonbong because he's being held back so much. But I feel like if he goes on a team like the London Spitfire with the coaching there as well, there's a lot that Myeonbong could pull out and look insanely good on. Now to the Dallas Fuel. I think Crimzo's good, but I feel like Myeonbong is also just better in general. That's another thing. Same thing goes with Atlanta Reign. I do think Dogman has been pretty this year, unfortunately, but I feel like Myeonbong could come in as well and just dominate. Same thing goes with Glads, Justice, it's the same thing. I feel like he could just go on those teams. I feel like he wouldn't take the Justice one, but I just kind of threw it out there. Unless Justice does a huge revamp, then I could see majority of these players going on the Justice. Now onto this next one. It is Twilight on the SF Shock. I think Twilight wants to start, in my opinion. If I was Twilight, I would want to start on the team. You've been dominating many times now in the Overwatch competitive scene on Runaway, Vancouver Titans, and now even SF Shock. I feel like he should go to a different team to start and just dominate once again, be one of the best flex sports. And the 2 teams I listed for him was the Dallas Fuel and Atlanta Reign. I think Dallas Fuel, I think Crimso's good and all, just like I said, but I feel like Twilight is such a huge upgrade that would be over Crimzo. I think Crimso's a great player, deserves to be in Overwatch League, but Twilight would dominate on the flex support role there, and he is just better than Crimzo all around. Then onto the Atlanta Reign, I think the same thing goes there. He would dominate, and I feel like if he was going to pick one, I feel like Twilight would pick Dallas Fuel because of how popular that team is compared to Atlanta Reign, and also Dallas Fuel just kind of, they use big bucks, that's what they do, and I feel like Twilight would take that one, but I could see Twilight staying with the Shock. But I feel like if he wants to start, if he wants to play all the time, he should definitely go onto a different team like the Dallas Fuel. Now to this next one. This player deserves to be traded at this point after how many times he's been so unlucky this season, and he was underage last season. It is Nero on the Guangzhou Charge. We all know how good this player is. There's a lot of visa issues. He would be playing, but COVID got in the way, and I think Guangzhou Charge has found their starting 6 though, and it's been good for them. And I think Nero, he just needs to get traded. He needs to go to a different team and just show he's still insanely good and possibly improve these teams. And the 4 teams I listed is Vancouver Titans, LA Valiant, Houston Outlaws, and Gladiators. And I think a lot of people are probably questioning why I put Houston Outlaws on here. The main reason I did is because Nero is just better than Blase. On all heroes, everything. Nero is just better. That's all I gotta say. Blase's been doing good for the Outlaws occasionally, but I feel like Nero is just better. If you have a Nero Dante duo, that sounds insane. Potentially some Nero Linkser. I think Nero would do great on the Houston Outlaws. And the same thing goes for Gladiators. Like I said, if he were you, I think Nero is just better than Kevster, though, I feel like, and maybe even Who Are You. So I think there's a chance here with the Gladiators. Then on the LA Valiant, they're having a hard time with their projectile player, KSF, and just all around, LA Valiant's having some issues. So I feel like Nero could come in and fill that void. And the one I love the most is the Vancouver Titans. I think he would do a really good job on the Vancouver Titans, and they don't even have a projectile player, and I feel like Nero would improve that team by a little bit, not a lot, but being their projectile player on the Vancouver Titans, do some rotations with Shockwave, Dalton, and Nero, and I think you could see some success from there. And then also later in the future, change their support line a little bit, and then go on from there. I think they should definitely be looking at nero this offseason if they have the money to do so, and I think Vancouver would improve a lot from that. Then on to this next one. Some people may not like to hear this, but it's Decay on the Dallas Fuel. I feel like if a player is always asking himself for a rest or to bench himself, those kind of lines of things, I don't see those as good signs. And I feel like, how Dallas does their things, I feel like they're going to trade Decay, unfortunately. But I think there's two teams Decay could get traded to. It is the Seoul Dynasty and the NYXL. Now, for the Seoul Dynasty part, I think Profit's fine, but Fitz has been kind of up and down this season. And I feel like if Decay comes in for the Seoul Dynasty, that really upgrades their hit scan position on the Seoul Dynasty. Then imagine the Decay and Profit duo. That would be absolutely insane. Then for NYXL, I feel like NYXL is going to mess with their DPS in the offseason. Maybe get rid of SBB, and then they could bring in Decay and find a Nene and Decay rotation potentially. But that's just me really looking at the future, seeing that things work out if they release SBB. But we'll see where that goes. There also is some inconsistencies with Nene recently on the NYXL. But I think those two teams for sure, mostly Seoul Dynasty, I feel like they would take Decay. Then for this last one, you guys may have forgotten about this player, but he still plays a lot of Overwatch. It is Closer on the Dallas Fuel as well. There's only two teams I've listed for him. It is the Toronto Defiant and the Washington Justice. I feel like even though if Toronto's doing good, I feel like they could always have a main support upgrade. I feel like Closer could do that over Cruz, and I think Closer could definitely help their support line a little bit more, and he's just better than Cruz all around as well. What else do I gotta say? He's just better than Cruz. Washington Justice, Closer's just better than Arc, brings some more consistency. Closer's a good shot caller. He's good on everything. His only usage is kind of up in the air, but I think Closer could do a good job of both of these teams. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it. Those are all the players I can see potentially getting traded in this offseason. I think for sure a guaranteed is Myeonbong, knowing how Boston does their things, but we'll see where the team he goes to. I'd love to see him go to London Spitfire. But yeah, guys, that's going to be it for me. Who do you guys think could get traded in the offseason? Do you agree with some of my picks? What's your thoughts? Don't forget to join my Discord down below. Also, don't forget to follow my Twitter and my Twitch. And don't forget to hit that bell. And don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below. And I'll see you guys on the next one.